Hello, everyone. It is Monday, the 26th of February, 2024. And for the first time on my show, and it's been years of doing podcasts and streaming, I actually have a guest on my show. And I'm shocked to say this, but my first guest is none other than Jeranism from the Jeranism podcast. He's on YouTube. I've looked at so much of his work throughout the years. I highly recommend people take a look at his work, and he's also on likely BitChute and Rockfin, I'm sure, as well, and definitely on Rumble, because I look at your work on Rumble as well, so I know you're on Rumble. And so yeah, Jeranism, welcome to my show. I'm really excited to have you.
Yes, you're definitely shadow banned. I saw you on Mark's show, and then I saw you with Dave Weiss. I thought that was on your show. Dave Weiss wasn't with you on your show.
Dave Weiss, it wasn't live, and it was on on Zoom. So It wasn't like a live stream, like where I added a guest in, and we did it back and forth. It was more of like him getting content out there, just, as it was basically like me interviewing him. So it wasn't like a discourse like back and forth.
Right.
But with Mark Sargent, it was more like that. And so, but yeah, I mean, as a guest live on my show that I've invited and I'm doing a live stream with, this is the first, because even with Mark Sargent, it was pre-recorded.
Okay, well, this is live, so that's good. Like to be your first. That's exciting. You should probably, because I'm just looking at your numbers, and I think you should have more numbers. You maybe find somebody that you could do a show with them, like a co-host or something, to kind of get your name out there a little bit more, or I think you'd be a great co-host or somebody. So something to look at.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's duly noted. I would love to get that. And I was going to say this as well. Like you have close to, but not 200,000 subscribers, and I cannot believe that. That really frustrates me, because there's so many big channels out there that have millions of viewers, and they are so not even a touch on your content and the people that you bring on. Like, your guests are also top tier. And men and women of all different walks of life, backgrounds, skill sets, experiences. I just highly enjoy your channel and the content.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 165, and it's been that way for 4 years. So it's actually kind of over it at this point. They once you get shadow banned, you don't get you don't get put into up next, or you don't get put into people's feeds. So really, I just preach to the choir. It's the same people who know that I'm here. And a lot of truthers don't really share stuff a lot, so it's hard to get new eyes on it. So anytime a show like this that I can do and get a couple of new eyes on the channel is great.
Amazing. So to kick off, I just wanted to kind of just start with the flow, because it's something that I've discussed, which is Astrotheosophy and the sun's path or travel through the zodiac belt, or on its ecliptical path, which causes a sine wave, if you want to graph it out. But I don't hear a lot of people talk about how within the sun's path, like through the ecliptical, it doesn't go, or it doesn't deviate more than 8 degrees within that ecliptical path. And even on the sine wave itself, when you have it where it's at its highest point, on the sine wave, it's during the summer solstice, for example, when on the 21st of June, you have it where it's 23.5 degrees north latitude of that equatorial ring, or whatever you want to call it,
right?
And which is the same distance as the radius, interestingly enough, and the same thing for the Tropic of Cancer, for the distance of the North Pole. So this also is fairly obvious, you know what I mean, that it's local, that it's significantly closer, and that we can measure it out. And I have these conversations with ChatGPT countless times, and there's always inconsistencies, and I have to correct the algorithms, and even the Earth curve calculation, it gets wrong all the time. But behind me is the Last Supper by Da Vinci, and we have Jesus, who's in the center, and he's also in a significant place. And so I'll just ramble on. I'm so sorry, but then I'll stop. I promise. But so the sun in Aries, when it starts from Pisces going into Aries, that's on or around the 20th or the 21st of March, depending on if you're in the northern or the southern hemisphere, and that's when there's equal amount of day and night, and then it travels from that path through the zodiacal belt until it reaches Cancer, where it's at its highest point in the sky, and that's on or around the 21st of June of every single year, and then it stays at its highest point in the sky as it transitions again from Gemini to Cancer, and then on the 24th of June in Canada, we call that Saint Jean the Baptiste Day, and that's where Saint John the Baptist dies, and so that's where the sun, when it's at its highest point, it finally starts its descent
Right.
Going, towards the the spring equinox into transitioning from Virgo into Libra, the 23rd of September of every single year, Northern Hemisphere, where we have equal amount of day and night again. And then it transitions into the Tropic of Capricorn, further away from the Northern Hemisphere. So 23, so traveling through the equatorial path, going through Scorpio, Sagittarius, and then into Capricorn. And then on the 21st of December, we have the winter solstice every single year, where we have the sun is at its lowest point, and when we have the least amount of day, the longest amount of night, and then it stays at its lowest point for 3 days. And then every single year on the 25th of December, the sun starts its ascent from its lowest point on that graph, which is 23.5 degrees south latitude of that equatorial path, and then rises again. So you have Jesus Christ that is born on the 25th. You have people like Apollonius, Helios, Mithras, Dionysus, Krishna, you name it. And so it's every single year. So for me, even the other luminaries, they have like a path that they follow, which to me is divinely guided. And so I do believe that this is a intelligently created cosmos, and that there is a creator or creators that are higher levels of consciousness and energies. But I don't believe that Jesus Christ was a real physical person as said in the Bible. And I do absolutely believe that it's an allegorical representation of the truth, but not facts, just like all the other occult books. And I'm sorry, I'll stop now.
No, that's good. No, you're saying it. I mean, you're saying it perfect. I agree. Basically the same thing. I mean, whether or not Jesus existed, not the character that's in the Bible. Was there a guy named Jesus, and did he come and speak, differently than people were used to, and say the kingdom of God is within you? Maybe, but as far as the Son of God coming down to be a sacrifice for sins, no, I don't believe that necessarily. I think you can be a good person without that doctrine, and I think the doctrine can be a little bit scary at times when you're basically giving people permission to sin by saying somebody already died for your sins. Like I'll be responsible for my sins. I will try and make amends for things I've done wrong in the past and go forward. But I certainly don't want to just apply my sins to, oh, good, Jesus died for me. Now I can go and sometimes if I screw up, it's not a big deal. As long as I believe in Jesus, I go to heaven. That doesn't seem like it's a doctrine that the creator would be a part of, or sacrificing. Like people that are Christians will talk about it like it's normal, just he needed to sacrifice his son in order for us to be saved. And it's like, no, you're not talking about God. A God doesn't need to sacrifice his son in order to do, it's like, that's where it gets a little bit funky for me. Is the same thing when they say, God is jealous in the Bible. Well, then it's not God, because God would not be jealous. That's a human trait. So there's a lot of things in the Bible that tell me that they just are describing, it's like humans, man's version of God. And that would be, to me, folly to follow. I don't want to follow man's version of God. And I just kind of learned going through this whole thing. And I guess I didn't know this before. I did grow up Christian. And then in talking to people from all around the world, or all across the world, I saw that many people all believe in a God. So let's say the Muslims, right? They believe in Allah, and they have spiritual moments, and they have dreams about Allah, and all. So they have this connection with Allah. And then Christians have, Yahweh or God, and you going through all of them, Buddha. And so everybody has these spiritual moments in their lives, or spiritual, happenings, but it's probably all the same God, right? So just like the ancient, or the American Indians, Native Americans would have danced for the rain god or the sun god. Well, that God is the same God as Jehovah, is the same God as
I agree.
Allah, yeah. Right. So, I mean, everybody on earth just worships the same God, but they all have their own versions, which is going to be shaped by your culture. So if you grow up in Japan, you're going to have a certain belief about God because that's what the culture believes. And then if you grow up in the United States, maybe it's, Jesus and the Old Testament God. So I just think it's basically easy to see, because I've had people come to me and they say, oh, Jaron, I know that the Bible's real because I've seen demons. So, okay, well, I also have talked to people that are Muslims that say they know that Muslims are real, or the Quran's real, because they've seen the jinn. So again, you're both seeing the same entity, maybe, which I don't know why you would even assume that they exist, because I don't think, I mean, for me, like, people ask if Satan exists, and I say, well, no, not if you don't want him to. Like, if I went into my garage and painted a pentagram on the ground and like read the Bible backwards with candles out, I wouldn't be surprised if Satan showed up. But I don't believe in him, so there's no way he's going to show up. So that, I mean,
so
I think
interesting.
Oh, yeah. Good. That's it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were on such a flow. I didn't mean to cut you off. It was just about Satan, because I actually have my own interpretation that people don't generally hear also about Satan. And so like just continuing on with like these mythical representations of luminaries, you have it where in the wintertime, you have it where the sun travels through Capricorn and Aquarius, for example, other signs as well, but predominantly it you have the winter solstice, and then it travels through Capricorn and then Aquarius. And then you have it where the Capricorn represents a goat, and you have Aquarius represents the water bearer, the human, even though it's an air sign. And then so you have this half goat, half human. And then even the luminary Saturn is correlated with the color red. And so this is where, and then so even with like in the wintertime, at least in Canada, it's a period where there's a lot of there's death, there's cold. Animals migrate or they hibernate because of the cold. There's nothing that can grow. There's no like nothing in the soil that can grow, and even the trees, there's no food. And so these are times that throughout history people have froze to death and or sacrifice their own animals or even children. I know that's disgusting, but to survive like the cold long winter months. And so that's why even with the fire and brimstone and that correlation with that, right? Like I do believe that it correlates to this freezing temperature or this colder temperature. And then I think that Lucifer is a representation of Venus, which is also something that's it's incorrect. So the morning star, the evening star, depending on the season. So Venus is also known as Eos or Dawn or Hemera, but also Lucifer. And so not evil. So why are we killing things for luminaries?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that, to me, Satan, or the idea of that, is just the adversary. So I think that the best way to describe 100%. It strangely is the angel and the devil on your shoulders, is that we go through life and we have both temptations. We have the temptation to, or not, both temptations, but we can be good. And we get that rewarding feeling that you kind of feel good, you helped somebody out or you did something good. And then on the other side, you have the adversary, which is always telling you to do the wicked thing. You can steal that, you can cheat on her, you can do this or that. So it's really where it's a test. We're being tested, but I don't think there's actually an entity separate from humanity that is Satan. Satan doesn't live somewhere and he's not going to come get you. But I do think that humans are capable of amazing things. And so you can conjure up demons and you can conjure up all kinds of stuff. I mean, people, stigmatas, I'm sure you've seen that before, where people have like whips on their back and they kind of like, so that's the thing that science doesn't allow us to venture into, is the fact that there is a metaphysical end to this world. There's a metaphysical portion. Science says that things only can be measured and calculated. So they right off the bat dismiss anything that can't be counted or calculated. I always talk about the rice experiment, which is a great experiment that you can do at home, and it will teach you that things are not what you have been told. I mean, basically you take 3 jars of rice, cook rice, and then put an equal amount in each jar, like a brand new mason jar, and then seal them. You'll never open them again, so make sure they're really tight. And then on one of them, you just write love, and on one of them you write hate, and on the other one you write neutral, and then put them in the cupboard and set your alarm for a time that you're always home. So maybe that's 9 in the morning, maybe it's 9 at night. And then when it goes off, go over there and spend 30 seconds with each one. Take the one out of the cupboard, say, I love you. You have to actually feel it. If you're just going through the motions, you're not going to have any results. But tell it you love it and it looks great and it looks edible. And then go to the hate one and take it out of the cupboard and go off to the side and curse it out. Tell it it's a piece of shit. It looks ugly. It's gross. And within 2 weeks or so, you'll notice there is a drastic change, that you now have 3 different types of rice. You have the neutral rice, which is kind of in the middle. You'll have the love rice, which will look still edible. And you'll have the hate rice, which will start to mold. And if people understood that our voices, our intentions, or words can actually affect matter, it should change the world. It should change people's lives. I used to always yell at my dog. He was in the backyard, and I'd be, Buster, shut up! Shut up! And then once I did this experiment, really saw it, I said, okay, I can see where that's not a good thing. You're basically yelling hateful words, shut up to the dog, and I mean, you just don't want to be doing those things. So, but science can't ever even address that experiment because they don't measure love. So they can't do a science experiment and say Jaron added 7 love and he had added 3 hate to the, there's no quantifier there. So, and then they'll say it doesn't even work because they won't even try. Right. So, and if you do go in there and just go, I love you, I hate you, then at the end of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're going to look at the rice, you're going to all look the same because you didn't put any intention so it's one of those things that science is dropped the ball on, that they really try hard to make the world materialistic no matter what.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's it. So
well,
that's
Socrates taught more than metaphysical stuff, and then with Aristotle, he became more of the like that physical, like teaching, and he was also someone that was, I mean, even if he existed, like was not a good person, right?
Yeah,
And
no, a lot of those guys weren't, but I mean, yeah, it's a path that humanity's been on. It seems like you had the church in charge, and the church priests were the ones who were dictating what you had to believe, and if you didn't believe it, they would excommunicate you. And then we had the science people come through, and I think that at least originally, their ideas were noble to say we don't want to go by belief, we want to go by facts and evidence, and so that's what they started to do. But then quickly that became the new religion. And now Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye, they're the high priests, and they're the ones who tell you what you can believe and what you can't. And now if you don't believe in them, you'll be shunned. And, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, science is true whether or not you believe in it, which is basically like them saying the Bible is all, there's no contradictions in the Bible. Then you point one out and then they just change part of it. Well, no, actually what it means is this. Like, well, if you can do that, then of course there's no contradictions in the Bible. You're just going to take everything I say and be like, well, no, it actually means this. It actually means that. It's like the other day I was looking at a Judges 11 is a Bible verse or Bible chapter, and it's talking about this guy, I forgot his name, but he wants to win this war. And so he tells God, if you let me win this war, when I get home, whoever comes and meets me, whoever comes out of the house first, I'll sacrifice them to you. And then God says, okay. And then he wins the war. And then he comes home and his daughter comes out first. And he's like, oh, daughter, it's so sad to see you. I made this deal with God and I can't go back on it. And she says, okay, well, let me go off in the field and weep for 2 months because I'll never marry. So she goes off with her friends and weeps for 2 months and comes back, and the dad sacrifices her to a burnt offering. So like that in the Bible to me is a huge problem, because I'm like, wait a second. So if I were to ask you, let's say we erase that and I just ask you, hey, who is it that gives worldly riches and power in exchange for human life? Who is that? You would probably say the devil.
I would say the devil.
Yeah. So why is God doing satanic things in the Bible? Which is, and again, if you are somebody who just follows the Bible and reads that, now I might think that, oh, well, I can make deals with God where I'll say, hey, God, give me world riches, give me power, and then whenever I come home next week, whoever comes out to meet me, I'll kill them. And like, how is that okay? How is that thing that should be shined upon? I mean, that is something.
Yeah, it's absolutely not okay.
God should say, don't you ever offer to sacrifice a person for worldly power? Why is God making these deals? So to me, the actual Old Testament God seems to be the devil. Seems to be this character that is, he kills babies. He tells lies. He says he's jealous. He's vindictive. He kills the firstborn of the Egyptians.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. There's a lot of things here that are
under the age of 2 years old, the firstborn sons.
Yeah, that's just morally incorrect. And I think that the only thing we're given, and I believe in a world where we're being tested and we're not given the instructions. And I think that's how you would really determine who's the good people here. Because if you give people instructions, let's say the book says, don't kill people. Well, maybe there's people here that want to kill people, but because the book says not to, they're like, all right, I won't kill. I want to kill that guy, but I'm not going to. And then what is that? Is that a passing grade because you didn't kill people even though you wanted to? So I think that it's better if you don't have any rules and you actually get to determine who is being a good person for the sake of it, because it's the right thing to do, and then who is not. And I think that's kind of what the test is here, is whether or not you can recognize that the only thing I feel like we're given from the Creator is our morality. I feel like that's inside of us all. I believe everywhere has that morality. So the only tool we have to actually assess whether or not the God that we're shown is the true God is to use our morality. So if we use our morals and look in the Bible and say, that's not moral, you can do one of two things. You can be like the Christians and say, no, God is morality. So therefore, if he kills babies, if he does this, then you don't know his ways and you're just a human, you're not allowed. Okay, well, then I think you've now trashed your morality that God gave you. You've thrown that away and you said, instead, I'm going to worship this God that man has made. This man God that no God. And I always ask people, did God come down and tell you he wrote the Bible? Because if not, I'd be careful. That sounds like you're, worshiping a book written by man. And yes, if the book says it's written by God, okay, well, that's what they would write, right? So there's like lines in the Bible too, like Romans 13, I think is either that one or the Ephesians, but Romans 13 is the one that says all governing, or you must follow all government or something. You have to. I can't remember the exact words of it. Let me get that just so I don't say something and then people will say he's straw manning the Bible and it's not even what it says. But oops.
Oh, I was going to say, and even in the King James version of the Bible was written in 1611, and 6 + 1 is 7, 711, and then was it Sir Francis Bacon
Yep.
Was it Shakespeare that wrote the Bible, the King James Version? And even with like this, the control you're talking about, I do believe that there's subtle messaging as well about control of women as well. And I also believe that that's like a misinterpretation of the luminaries. For example, the sun and the moon. And so the moon, so the sun being a magnetic radiating masculine energy. And I believe that the moon is an electrical cooling gravitational energy. So you've got the yin and yang, you've got the positive, negative, masculine, negative energies. And there are actually, I'll get into that, other luminaries as well that do have phases, just like our moon does with the cycles.
Right. Venus.
And so, so you have these two energies that we're experiencing, like Walter Russell says, electricity and magnetism, but it's a unified force or a unified cosmos, right? And there's electrical magnetic fields or toroidal fields that make up this multi-dimensional reality that's being projected on a flat plane of inertia. But one force is stronger than the other, but it doesn't necessarily mean that one is superior to the other, because even with like that radiating magnetic energy, right, that like the sun having too much of it is still, it's not a good thing, right? It can kill. Too much sun can harm, right? And so you still need the moon to have that balance, that harmony. And so there's people that take that interpretation of the sun and the moon, the masculine, feminine energies, the cooling or the heating energies, and they take that as women being somehow inferior to men and weaker in all aspects. Obviously, the physical aspects, I'll give you guys that, obviously. Right. but even when men try to make it where we're not equal or where we're supposed to be subservient, or even intellectually, I'm like, well, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, it's not always the case. I mean, I think sometimes, obviously, you can pinpoint different things that are the case. But I mean, I believe in just traditional marriage because I think people in roles work well. But I mean, I'm all somebody. If my wife came home and said, "Oh, I want to get a career, I want to work here or whatever," then I would support her in that. But I mean, as far as what works well for us is, I make the money and protection and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And she, I was talking to somebody recently. I have a 3-year-old, and they said something about changing diapers, and I said, "I don't know. I've changed like 5," and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I've changed
that many?"
Yeah. No, they were like shocked. They're like, "I change 5 a day. Like, how do you get away with that?" I'm like, "Well, that's not my job." It's like, they're like, "What do you mean? It's your wife's job?" I'm like, "Well, no, we have roles. I mean, that's like, I don't make her mow the lawn, so I mean." But so Romans 13 says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established." So that alone tells you the Bible wasn't written by God. God would never say, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities," right? And then he says, "The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and they will bring judgment upon themselves." So that means anybody who didn't wear a mask, anybody who didn't get a vaccine, you all went against God's judgment, and therefore you're going to be judged. So no Christian even believes the Bible. They don't believe this. They know it's not true. They know that, and they'll just make up things like, "Oh, it's talking about a time in the past." Like, no, it's not. Then why is it in the Bible now? Why is it scripture? Why are we reading? So it's kind of ridiculous. And that's just, and then it says a little bit further down. Oh, it actually says, "For rulers hold no terror to those who do right, but only to those who do wrong. Do you want to be free of fear from one in authority? Do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good." So then we're supposed to believe Barack Obama and Joe Biden are there for our good, and that God put them there to make changes in the world, which is just crazy. It says they are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment to the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities. So it's now telling us to submit to the authorities. Yeah. Not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. And it says, "This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their..." It's so stupid. I mean, it's definitely written by governments. It's like so that anybody would not be able to just have the balls to say, "Oh yeah, that part's not real." It's like, give everyone to what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, honor. I'm like, so you tell me if Joe Biden came out tomorrow and said 99% sales tax now on all items, Christians can't make us think about it. They'd be like, "Well, it says pay taxes to who taxes are due." So I'm like, God didn't write this. God would say things like pay taxes as long as they're small amounts and they are helpful to the community, and it would never say let everyone be subject to the governing authorities. It would say something like, unless they are wicked and evil, unless they are tyrannical, unless they are, taking away human rights, in which case you have to stand up for yourself. You have to do something. So that tells me the God, Bible of God, or the Bible isn't written by God. And then in Ephesians, it says, "Slaves, be good to your masters." It says, "Be good to them as if they are Jesus Christ. Treat your master like he is God." So it's like, what? That's the slave.
I know. Oh my goodness.
Like, who else? No God would ever say, first of all, God would come out and say, "By the way, you cannot keep each other as property." That's what God would say. He wouldn't say, oh, slaves do this, this, and this. What do you mean? God doesn't want slaves. That's a human thing. We are dirtbags. We went and grabbed people and put them as slaves, not God. God had nothing to do with that. So I find it embarrassing that people call me a blasphemer or this or that, but it's like, I'm the one saying God has killed nobody. I'm the one saying God is not wicked. God is not evil. God is not jealous. God is good. And they're like, you cretin, God definitely killed people, you know. So okay. So it's just
then,
I'm the one saying he's not killing anybody, and I'm the bad guy. So,
and even creating Jesus Christ as this physical being, this mythical entity, it further removed us from the truth about the earth and God and the Creator, and accessing like the divine light within, and accessing our higher levels of consciousness.
Have you looked into the fact that some people, you know, the early Christians thought that the God of the Old Testament was a demon or was not? I mean, I've been looking into a little bit recently just because I think it's kind of interesting. Like somebody showed me the Greek for the line where Jesus says, "You are the children of the Father. Or you're the children of the devil. He's the father of all lies." Or something. I forgot exactly what Jesus says, but the actual Greek translation is, "You are children of your father." I'm sorry, you are children of the father of the devil. And so they've translated it now to be the devil's your father, which doesn't make any sense, right? The devil doesn't have kids. So clearly Jesus probably was saying that which would mean the father of the devil is Jehovah, is Yahweh. So I've often thought before, if let's say Jesus came, let's say he was real just for a second. He comes and he talks shit about the Old Testament God. Like, that's not God. God is within your heart. He even says things like, no man has heard his voice or seen his face, but yet Adam heard his voice, Abraham heard his voice, Moses heard him, Moses saw him, so Enoch walked with him. So again, that it almost seems like Jesus isn't talking about the Old Testament God. So I think, and they're not the same at all. The Old Testament God sees somebody picking up sticks and they say, what do we do with this guy? And he says, stone him to death. That's actually the creator of this world, people think, ordered stoning, which is the worst death you could ever have, to throw stones at somebody until they actually die. So, and then another case, like I said, God kills somebody for picking up sticks on a Sunday. Jesus is picking wheat on a Sunday, and they, or on a Sabbath, and they say, hey, you're picking, that's against the law. And he says, no, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, which is a complete opposition to his so-called father, who just killed somebody for doing the same thing. So, and then the Old Testament father's like, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, like, you kill me, I kill you, blood for blood. And then Jesus, like, turn the other cheek, love each other, love your neighbor. Completely different doctrines. So to me, there's a chance that Jesus did come and said, let's say he did, they would change the words. They would change his words. They would completely change. So
even with the devil, backwards is lived. And so there's also people that say that we lived in sin, or that we were born in sin. And so that's why I feel as well that it's just like a reversal of us living in sin. And so with that, and so like another misrepresentation possibly of the of astrotheosophy, of religion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Bible is. I mean, really, it's got so much in it that should tell you that, number one, there was a civilization before the one that we're told about, because clearly whoever wrote the Bible is putting things in there that are astronomical. The lady with the sun under her feet and the moon under, so they knew the sky. They absolutely knew. They knew the names of the constellations when the Bible was written. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't jive with the timeline. So what it really means is that you probably had a lot of science before that. Somehow, I don't know if you believe that we were wiped out at some point or reset.
I believe in resets. I believe that there's been natural and man-made. Well, I believe there's been natural events that were started because of men.
Right.
Like that have caused resets throughout the world, the world. So I do believe there's been absolutely advanced civilizations, technologies, and times where we've been more primitive as well, just based on.
Sure. Because if they do it again, right? Like right now, I mean, we're already kind of losing books. And if you just picture a huge flood, or you picture a huge tidal wave that kind of washes, 50 feet of water over the earth, like everything would be gone in 100 years, like everything we have, because the internet would be gone. So all that knowledge that's there is gone. Books would be rotted in 100 years. So basically, if we got covered in mud or something like that, you'd basically lose all human knowledge. And then if you had a couple people who knew better and they went underground when this happened, then they would come out again and they would get to be kings of the earth at that time, because as people started to come up again, they would have control and they'd be able to dictate whatever they want the beliefs to be. And sometimes I think that's kind of the problem with doing flat earth stuff like I'm doing. I am giving them help, right? So the more that I point out errors in their thing, if they do
they're
going to be like, oh, thank you, we're now correcting that and we're correcting that. So that's kind of a downfall part of it, or downside of it. But no, I mean, the Bible clearly, Jesus being 30, which is the same as the 30 degrees. So there's the 12 signs, and then 30, he started his ministry when he started. 30 degrees times the 12 is the 360. The fact of him getting water from a lady at the well, well, sorry, it's a man at the well, right? I think that the symbol for Aries is a man with a little pitcher of water or something. And the Bible talks about Jesus saying,
That's Aquarius.
Aquarius. Okay, sorry. And I'll be there to the end of an age. And basically the age is of Pisces right now, right? Where the fish, which everyone sees the fish on the back of the car that says Jesus or whatever. So yeah, it's we're in, and I don't know, do you know when the age of Aquarius is here?
Well, I don't really subscribe to that much too much about
Good.
the
Yeah,
I
just didn't know when that starts.
I'm really more about like what I like what I can see or what I've measurable, observable, repeatable, but also I also get into electricity, magnetism. Obviously, these are things that are not observable, and I also get into halogen gases. I'll talk about that afterwards because I don't want to go on different tangents. But flat Earth in the Bible, I know people say that there's the 200 proofs. Or not 200 proofs, but like 200 verses in the Bible. I know that some people say that they're not all good, but there's a good majority of them that are really good.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible was written by people at the time where they would have been insane to think that the earth is a spinning ball. It's just like you'd be insane today to think that. But the difference is that we were indoctrinated. So that's what happens when you could teach children anything. You could teach them that a man in a red suit drives around and drops presents off through chimneys, and people will believe that if you teach them young enough, and it's just part of what they grow up with. So I mean, the horoscope thing for me, I did a show where I had this idea because I said, I feel like when you read them, you're like, oh, that matches me, right? Everybody says that, right? Oh, that's just it's exactly like my horoscope. So I said, well, what we'll do is we'll draw 3 people's birth charts who have never done this before. So we had 3 guests on. We each got their birth dates and their times and everything. And then we printed up 3 birth charts, gave it to each one of them and said, okay, now read all 3 and tell us which one is yours. And they went over 3. So it just kind of showed me a little bit more about that they all have the reasons. Oh, I didn't think this would be about me. But it's like if you are given something and say, this is about you, just the same as if you give somebody a book and tell them this is written by God, they read it differently than they read every other book. So people think that the Bible, there's a special connection in there and I feel so holy when I read it. It's like, yeah, somebody gave it to you and told you God wrote it. So I would expect you to have a little feeling about reading it than you would if you read, Cat in the Hat. So, but I mean, people are just very impressionable. That's what these guys have gotten away with forever is people want to be led. I didn't know these things. I don't want to be led. I don't want to follow anybody. I don't want anybody following me. But there are humans out there that are like too, pussy, for a better way to put it. They're too afraid of making decisions or going out on a limb or saying something that's not popular. And so they just kind of cuck and go into this idea of scientism is all that there is. And it allows you to be really simple-minded, right? Imagine if you and I right now just decided, hey, let's just believe everything that science says and let's go watch a football game. So we've just now completely removed part of our lives. We don't have to do any research anymore. We can just give up because we're just going to believe what science says. So there's a lot of people like that. They've given up on thinking. They've given up on any kind of intuition, or they just have given their belief system to men. And I think that, when I talk about being tested here, that's obviously not a passing grade. If you've given your entire belief system to men who tell you that they can see back in time and all this one, so they can date rocks. I mean, go ahead. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
That much. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I used to believe all these things like everybody else does, but I'm somebody who now, if you're going to make me believe something, especially in something extraordinary, then you have to prove it to me, not just teach me in class and then assume that I will always believe that it's the case. Dating dinosaurs and dating the earth and they can date rocks. It's like, no, you can't. You can't do that. So,
and even astrology is mentioned. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even astrology is mentioned 9 times, I believe it is, but in the King James version of the Bible. And as those, as to those that you would seek wise counsel from about the seasons and things like that. But even a sign, like some people believe that the translation actually meant to be image and not sign. And so even as the sun goes through these zodiacal signs through the belt and also these 12 signs, like every single civilization has like some kind of like a 12 image or symbol that represents the sun's path through the elliptical belt, whatever you want to call it. Right. And moving, as you were mentioning before, I just wanted to elaborate more for people as well. Sure. It's 15 degrees every hour, and so like every 2 hours the sun travels through the zodiac, the zodiac signs in a day, and so that's where we get the 24-hour clock as well, right? And there's also a connection with anyways, I won't go with the, actually, no, I'll go with the degrees of a circle too. So you have, circles have, I'd say like 7 primary degrees. You have the 0, the 1, 8, the 1, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. You have the 0, the 180 degrees, and then you have like the 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. And on either side, it could be either negative or positive. And so that's where you also have like 2 singular degrees and then a pair, like dual degrees. And that's that you have that 7 connection. And then when you add them all up, that equals 12. 12. And then you also have the luminaries. There are the zodiac signs. They're actually correlated with I don't know if you can see that well at all. Anyways, I'll just talk about it. So the luminaries are correlated with the zodiacal signs as well. And so and this is just my interpretation, and there are people that have a different one. And so, but I would like your opinion on this. And so if I go down the chart, I'm going like I have like it's by color, frequency, day of the week, zodiacal sign, element, you name it. I have like a list of stuff that I put together. And so when I look at the 7th chakra, the crown chakra, it's correlated with Sunday for the day of the week, and 1000 for petals. And then you have the zodiac sign associated with it is Leo, and Leo is ruled by the sun. And the element that's associated with it is gold, and the color is violet or ultraviolet. And then you have this, and then I can say more about that, but you got the 6th chakra, which is the 3rd eye chakra. The day that we correlated with it, I believe to be Monday. In French, it's lundi. And then you have the zodiacal sign that the moon rules over is Cancer.
Okay.
And so with that, you have the element is silver, and the color that's correlated with it is actually indigo, in my humble opinion. And so you have Leo is actually a masculine radiating magnetic sign, luminary, in my opinion. And Cancer, or the moon rather, is a gravitational cooling negative feminine energy. And then when you go down the list, you've got the 5th chakra, which is the throat chakra, Odin's day, or Odin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lost you.
Luminaries, that's the only planet. Oh, sorry.
Hey, cutting in and out. I'm not sure why. Try again. Oh, now you're frozen.
That's the only planet that correlated with it is Mercury. It's the only androgynous luminary out of these 7 original ones, out of the research that I've done. And so where you have it, it's a sun and moon, and the 2 zodiac signs correlated with it is Virgo and Gemini. Virgo being seen as the negative or electrical energy, Gemini being the masculine radiating energy, and and obviously Mercury being the element correlated with the so you got the 4th chakra after that, where Vendredi.
You're breaking up pretty bad. Let's give it 1 second. I'm not here. I don't know, your audience is probably hearing you
in French. The 2 zodiac signs associated with it. Oh.
Just wait 1 second, because you're breaking up. I don't think anybody could hear what you were saying. Okay, try now. Good.
I'm not talking anymore.
What?
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Is there a delay?
Okay. Maybe. What's the last thing you heard?
I don't know. It was just garbled for about the last maybe 30 seconds.
Oh, no.
I don't know how all of a sudden we got a delay that wasn't here before.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yep. Can you hear me?
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes. Now I can.
Yes.
It just seems like there's a delay that wasn't here a second.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
And what was the last thing you heard?
I don't remember. It was about 30 seconds ago. You were, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know where I left off, but I'll go with Mercury.
Okay.
Okay, good to go. So I'll go with the 5th chakra. It's the throat chakra. The day of the week correlated with it being Wednesday, and the element or luminary being Mercury, and the zodiac signs correlated with Mercury are Virgo and Gemini.
Okay.
Virgo being a negative, and then Gemini being positive. I'll just keep it simple. And then you have the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra. The day of the week associated with it is Friday. And then for the zodiac signs, it's Libra and Taurus. And you got Libra, which is a masculine cardinal sign, and then Taurus is a negative fixed sign. With it, the luminary being Venus, which has phases, fun fact, just like the moon. Okay. And the color associated with it is green. And so the heart chakra is at the center of the diagram, I guess, out of the luminaries, the colors, the chakras, etc. And also, I believe that it also correlates with green is the color out of the light spectrum. It's green. We see more shades of, and so it's also interesting to me that that's at the center point as well. And we see more shades of green associated and noble gases associated with the fields that these luminaries provide that contain this environment, this gaseous environment. And I believe that it's sonoluminescence, just like anyways, I'll get to that.
One favor. Can you let's maybe shut off our cameras, because your bandwidth's really bad. I don't think people are probably hearing you talk too much, so it's kind of hard to hear you. So maybe stop your cam just to see if that fixes it.
Oh, actually, maybe I'll shut down my backdrop.
Yeah,
maybe if I stop my my backdrop, maybe that will help. I think. And then what else did you say?
Okay. Sounds better. No, that sounds good. I was going to say, just do that. I was going to say that, but it sounds good now. So keep going. Go ahead and continue. You're good now.
Okay,
I think it sounds better now. Yeah, good.
Okay, good. So you got the third row, perfect. So you got the third row, which is the third chakra, the solar plexus or celiac plexus. The day of the week associated with it is Tuesday or mardi. And then which is Marty. I'll get into that. Mars, Scorpio, and Aries. Scorpio, negative feminine. Aries, which is a cardinal sign, positive masculine. And then you have the element associated with it as iron, and the luminary being Mars, and the color associated with it being yellow, which is interesting to me because yellow is actually a color that is symbolic or could represent war. And that's why even with Aries, even with like the color hair that we see of the mythical figure Aries or Eris or even Athena, it's like the blonde hair. I believe it's because of the color yellow and not because of like some kind of like an Aryan race of like white beings with blonde hair. I believe it possibly has to do with colors, but who knows?
Eros.
So then you've got the
right?
Oh, sorry, ARES.
Oh, ARES. Okay, go ahead.
And then you have the second chakra, which is sacral chakra. The day of the week associated with it is Thursday or jeudi. And you've got Sagittarius and Pisces, Sagittarius being the positive masculine energy, Pisces being the negative feminine, element being tin, and then Jupiter being the luminary correlated with it. And Jupiter as well possibly has phases. So there's three luminaries, not just what we call the moon. So you got Venus and Jupiter that possibly have phases. I think they do. And the color associated with it is orange.
You mean Venus and Mercury?
And
what'd you say? I don't think Jupiter would have.
No, Venus and the moon. So
oh, gotcha. Okay, I misheard you. Go ahead.
Some Astrotheosophy.
Say again. You're breaking up again.
Stuff, or sorry, not Astrotheosophy. I've looked at some like astrology stuff.
Uh-huh.
Oh, maybe I speak too fast.
Yeah, maybe try some. I don't know why that's happening. I don't know.
So I've looked at some archived works, but sometimes there's incorrect work anyways.
Right.
If I
let me check my settings real quick.
So
I just did a
speed test.
I'm doing
the video.
It's not me. So if you go into your settings down at the bottom and then you click, there's camera audio, right? What does camera say for your camera resolution? It should say camera, then you're typing this is camera resolution. If you click on camera in the settings. I don't know why that's happening there. Did you freeze? All right. I'll be taking over the show. I'm the new Dawn Dussault.
Hello?
Oh, no, sorry. She's back. Go ahead. I was taking over your show. I was going to be your
oh,
okay,
nice.
So, yeah. Go ahead. It seems like it's a little clear now.
Oh yeah, sorry. So Mercury, it's the only of the 7 original luminaries that is seen as the sun and moon. And
Okay.
so it's androgynous. That's all I meant by that. So you're right. It technically is a moon as well, but it's possibly like androgynous sun and moon. And there's ancient works that I've looked at where it's astronomical mathematics, and they're talking about spherical trigonometry, and then they're trying to claim that the world is a globe, even though the calculations that you do could be done on a circle or a globe or a ball, right? And and so even with the spin, of the Earth that they claim, that's also something that's provable on a plate or a CD. And so even with that, it's like very similar. I don't even know what I want with that. I'll finish the lines, the rows. The last one's the root chakra. And the zodiac signs associated with it are Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn being the negative feminine energy, and Aquarius being the positive masculine. Element being lead. Luminary being Saturn, and the color being red. And that's all I wanted to talk to you about. Like even with that, out of the 7 luminaries, there's 2 singular astrological signs, and then there's 5 pairs of 2. So that also comes to 12. And so that's why there's also a lot of like sacred gematria.
Yeah. What is your reason? What do you think the reason for that is? Like, what's your takeaway from it?
I just think it's a divine clock. It just further like makes me believe that this isn't a big bang, and that this just didn't happen out of thin air, and they're trying to come up with so many different excuses for they just can't.
Everything. They're backing themselves into a corner, and it's been going on for a while. But no, I totally agree. I think it's a divine plan. I don't think that nothing didn't blow up and create everything, and so that's. But they need their vacuum of space because they need the Earth to spin. They need it to go 1,000 miles per hour, and they say we're moving right now 1.2 million miles per hour, which is 800 times as fast as a speeding bullet. So if you think that right now, just sit still and feel it, we're all moving faster than a speeding bullet. Not just barely either. We're moving a lot faster.
Yeah, and we could feel the slightest of winds. And when I smoke a joint like this, even like a little bit of breath can move it across the air.
To believe that
and even with the 666,
they use it everywhere. Yeah, I mean, when I saw the one that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration is the reverse gematria of 666. So it's not it's not like you're going on one of these stretches and you're the Babylonian. No, it's just the third most popular really. Puts that as that. So yeah, pretty crazy what's going on around here.
Yeah. And NASA and multiple. Oh,
good.
Oh, I was just gonna say with NASA and like there's and Army publications, I've looked at so much data as unclassified, declassified, open source information, and it even says like I've shared videos like where where it says it's flat, non-rotating Earth, right? Like for all of these advanced mathematical calculations, for you name it.
Can you talk to maybe your audience and mine about compartmentability? Because I'm guessing in the military you see a lot of that, to where it's a very need-to-know basis, and you may be under NDAs, and other people are under NDAs. So is there not a lot of chit-chat about current missions and things like that, or how does that work? I guess I'm trying to correlate it with NASA's ability to, have all these subcontractors, they say, but they're all in the same system and they're being paid from NASA's money. Maybe if you can just expand on that just a little bit.
Oh yeah, so so I have top secret government clearance, and I will for the next few years. So I can still do government contracts, and I have been since I've been retired as well. I'm a business owner of a. I guess you would call myself I would call myself an international security expert, more so than the common Canadian person in government right now.
Right.
And so I was in the special forces, and so like I've definitely signed non-disclosures, both in the military and outside the military. And it's absolutely.
How many of you signed? Round up.
Dozens.
50?
Dozens. Hundreds maybe. Dozens at least.
Okay. I think people probably don't think that.
Pardon me?
I think a normal person probably has no idea that the military has signed 50 NDAs.
Oh, it's not even just with the military. Sorry, like even with contracts that I do with the government, I sign non-disclosures, or I give non-disclosures to people that I hire to do training for higher levels of government. So that's just to make sure that there's like nothing leaves training. So even
Right.
if there's video footage or role players that are seen as journalists, there's nothing that they can share. If they're going to be filming government employees, like none of that stuff goes out. Like that's what I'm talking about. And so even some of the non-disclosures I signed, there's a time limit to it as well. And so,
Right.
you know, or just like specific things not to mention. And so, but like, and so you're right. Like there's people that I know that are even in like working with space agencies or working, you know, NATO, working UN, like working high level government, and they have no idea that even that 9/11 was staged and planned. Like they're like even like that. Like it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, some people just can't get over the hump. It's a fear, I think, of the unknown, right? So they feel very comfortable in I know how the Earth works. I know that we're spinning. I know where the sun is. I know how far the moon is. So if you're trying to say something different than that, you're just breaking down their very makeup. It's not going to go well. It might take a couple times because they're just people don't want that. Our brains do put up. We all know this. It's that immediate protection that you're kind of get given when you are, let's say, I don't know, doing anything that you would need protection from. But it just seems like there's like a concerted effort to get rid of that, or a concerted effort to stop people from doing that. But sorry, I forgot where I was going there. And got lost there. What are we talking about? Remind me where we're at. I forgot what we were talking about. What subject were we on?
Oh, just like people are refusing to and you were rushed to get on the podcast, so I appreciate
that's right.
it. So
I got home. But I just forgot what were we just talking about.
Sorry, you were about the truth and
about what?
Sorry. Like people are refusing to look at the truth. They're considering.
Oh, right. They're just, I mean, they're afraid of it.
They're
that's
refusing
basically all it comes down
to open their eyes and look at like what's right in front of their faces.
Right. It just destroys their whole makeup.
Yeah.
And I think that you just can't, your brain protects you from that. Your brain protects you from ever having to deal with that. And we've all noticed that, right? If somebody comes and says something that we don't believe, we immediately want to argue and have a battle, because your brain is not wanting that. It already has the truth filled out there. So when you're basically fighting against new information coming into your brain, because it has to, if you do get new information, imagine your brain has to then reprioritize things, has to move things around, it has to take things out, put things in. So your brain's happy when it's got, okay, this is our beliefs, we're good. And then when somebody comes in and says, oh, 9/11 was an inside job, you're going to flip out, because you're like, no, there's a bunch I have to learn. I got to figure out what's going on. So it's just easier for people to say, nah, that's not true. And I did it to my friend when my buddy came into one of my stores and said 9/11 was an inside job. I said, yeah, right, get out of here. Like, what are you even talking about? It's garbage. Don't ever come to me with that information again. But then it was like 2 or 3 years later when I'm sitting in front of the computer with nothing to do, and then you start looking into it, and then you come to the conclusion yourself, even though it was your friend who kind of was the catalyst. It's like I think people have to realize truths on their own more than they do have to be told a truth, right? So people can't just be. I've never had a conversation with somebody and I say, no, the Earth's flat, and then they just by the end of the conversation go, you're right, the Earth's flat. That would be weird, right? They went too fast there. So really, it's more about planting seeds. But people are afraid of the truth for many, many reasons. But I think that anything that's new, anything that's not known, scares people, and people don't want to be scared of the world around them.
And a lot of people aren't open-minded.
No, not at all. Especially when we weren't taught to be open-minded, right? We were taught to follow the status quo, and if you want to be cool, you got to be like Taylor Swift, and it's just all this garbage propaganda. And then once they got control of the airwaves, they're basically able to do whatever they want. I mean, they can now show some racist thing that happens in Detroit, and the whole world, the whole country starts to march and things like that. But it's like, it didn't happen in your backyard. It happened over there. Those people will handle it. We don't need to. That's what the TV's brought. That's really kind of scary. If you just erase the TV, right? Tomorrow, think about waking up and just nothing on TV, no news, no phone, how life does go back to normal. It's almost like the social media has brought all this strife that doesn't need to really be there. We would all do just fine if we just turned off the internet and just kind of got on with our lives. We would figure it out, and it would be better off. I mean, that's what it was in the 80s, right? That's why there was no as much hate and stuff like that, because there's no way to get that information out there. There wasn't an internet. So there was, if you had hate, you and your buddy down the street, hated people over there. But now it's like you can really get huge groups together that believe the same thing, which is a good thing, and it could be a bad thing. But this is why science is being questioned so much, because a lot of things we were just take for granted, protons, neutrons. I mean, they tell you an atom is the smallest thing that there is, right? Because you can't cut it in half, you can't divide it. So think of how funny that's. I mean, if you can't divide it, then how are you going to tell us what's inside of it? They tell us what's orbiting inside of it. Oh, there's this, a neutron, an electron, they're going around a nucleus or whatever it is. Again, those are all models. They're not real. And it took me a long time to realize that. It took me a long time to start asking people to prove things to me, right? Like spectroscopy or, oh, the distance to the sun or the distance to the moon. Once you start digging on that, they get backed into a corner because there is no real answer. You have to know one of them to get the other, right? You have to know that if I want to know how far Venus is, well, I either have to know the size or I need to know the distance so that I can extrapolate from there to get the other numbers. But if you don't know anything, you're at a loss. And I mean, they're at a loss about everything, I think. And they just think, at least in my opinion, they got here and said, hey, if nobody can go to the moon, if nobody can go to the sun, if we get up there and say we did, then nobody can ever debunk us because they can't go. So they would just say, so we win. So basically, whoever got to space first, even if you didn't get there, you just conceptually got there, you would have, pretty much control over the entire space agencies, which they do. Yeah. Everybody says, oh, they're independent. No, everybody goes through NASA. They have to get all their programming and stuff through NASA. So, yeah, I mean, everybody does it. It's not just a few people. Okay. I don't know how we got such a delay. We didn't have that before. Are you still there?
I was going to say the spectrometer, wasn't it?
What's that? Spectrometer? Or is that what they use for spectroscopy? I can't say that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Now I do.
I was going to say, yes, that was Tesla's favorite, wasn't it? I was going to say that the noble gases or the Tesla coils or the Tesla lamps.
Uh-huh. I don't know what
close to them, they actually light up, and that also gives the like the 7 colors.
Here, put real quick. I just want you to put this in your eyes so your speed is coming in at. Maybe it's.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's really bad. You're breaking it out. Over in the chat, can you just click this link?
I'll shut down things.
It's a speed test, just so I can see what your.
I'm trying to shut down a bunch of things.
Do you see in the chat? I just put in the private chat. There's a link to a speed test. Just want to, if you click that and hit go, I just want to see what your speed test is. Because mine's 920 and 40, so I don't think it's coming for me. Let's see if you get like 25.
Oh no, it's for sure.
Huh?
It's for sure me. It's for sure me because I'm on ExploreNet. Like I'm not even on a main. So I just tested the link. Or I just pressed it. Oh, for sure me. Yeah, more things.
Okay. Is it? Yeah, just making sure it's not me. Knew what was going on. Because you're like breaking up. It's doing the robot voice, and then you're like. You're only halfway talking. We only hear half of what you're saying.
No.
You said you have, what is ExploreNet? I've never even heard of that. Satellite? Satellite
Can you hear me now?
Yes. I can. I'm just not going to talk.
It's yeah, because I didn't want to be with a major provider and I didn't want to go Starlink, and everyone here is Starlink.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So maybe we should with the delays.
Well, we'll see if it goes. I mean, it gets any better, but it's to start out. Yeah, we're only hearing like half of what you're saying. You cut in and out. And
I was just going to say
a delay that was added all of a sudden. Go ahead. Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not coming through. Yeah, okay, try now. Maybe we can hear you now a little bit.
I was just going to say that
you turn off your camera
with electricity, you can manipulate with Tesla lamps or coils. You can actually light up the stop camera. Like I want to see how I do that.
Just the bottom, just a stop cam. I'll stop mine too. See if there's any good bandwidth there. If we get better, that might fix it. Do you see on the bottom?
Okay.
There you go. Let's try that and see if it shouldn't break up now because it's not using any video footage.
Okay, sorry about this. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Oh, is it better?
What is? Did you run that speed test? I wonder what your download speed is on that ExploreNet.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say if you're gonna do these kind of.
I was just gonna say with
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Go ahead.
Loading. It says at 920.34 and upload 40.
Wait, what?
4.2. Is that what you wanted me to let you know? It's probably, is that bad?
Wait a second. Where did you get that? No. That's mine. That's
the
not,
downloading speed.
that's mine. You need to hit
Downloading. It says
no. See where it says go.
920.34.
No, that's mine. Click the go on the left where it says go in a circle. I just gave you the link that has my just score that I just did. So you want to click go. I think it's go, and then it should start its own, and then see what you come in at. That'll at least tell us if you're really low. Then we should reschedule because if it's okay. And I'm trying to think of what you would need to be at to be streaming live, and probably 100 minimum, I would say. We'll see what it comes at. Still connecting?
Jared, I want to make the video further delayed, so I'm so sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, we might just do it again because if it, especially if you're really low.
I'm just going to I'm probably just going to end it. Yeah, and again, I'm so sorry, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Yeah, reschedule or figure out what you got to do with your. What is it? What did it come in at?
Time to speak with me.
What did it come in at? What was the score?
Oh, it's still connecting.
Oh yeah. When your speed test,
I'm still not seeing anything. It's still connecting.
Yeah, when your speed test is just not getting started.
No, I didn't hang up. I'm saying that the speed is it says
the
connecting.
Internet's so bad now. It's like a 20-second delay now. You're way behind me. Yeah, she'll hear that in a second. Yeah, you're going to have better internet, or
okay.
Maybe next time we could do it on my show or something like that.
On that note, for everyone who's watching. Perfect. Okay. And a wonderful day. Jeranism, do you have any?
I have nothing to say. Forgive Dawn. She's will fix her internet eventually.
Last minute points?
Nope. I'll talk to you next time. We'll do this again. We just got to get your internet figured out a little bit better, or have somebody else run the show.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.